Many call me a traitor, others a monster, some simply mad. But who truly listens to my story? Who has dared to look beyond the shadows, to seek the truth? I was not born evil. I was not made to destroy. And yet, in every age, in every war, mine is the name shrouded in doubt, burdened by misunderstanding. I am Illidan Stormrage, brother to Malfurion, student of the Titans, enemy of the Legion, Lord of Outland. But before all of that, I was just an elf, a dreamer, a boy, hungry for power. This is my story, not to ask for your forgiveness, but so that maybe, in the shadows of my choices, you may glimpse the hidden light of truth. I was born in an age of apparent peace. Our people, the Night Elves, ruled over Azeroth from the quiet shores of Zinashari. It was a time when eternity felt like a gift, not a curse. My mother never lived to witness our fate. She died, giving birth to us, my twin brother and me. Malfurion came into the world just a few breaths before I did, and from that moment on, everything about him seemed purer, more worthy, more in tune with nature, with balance. I, on the other hand, was different. Not evil, but restless, curious, and above all, hungry. Hungry for knowledge, hungry for power, hungry for answers. While Malfurion embraced the path of wisdom, I turned my gaze toward the unknown, toward what lurked in the heart of darkness. That was how my study of the arcane began. Under the guidance of Queen Azshara's servants, I honed the art of magic. My spells far surpassed those of my peers. My eyes glowed with an ambition I couldn't even control. And in the midst of it all, there was Tyrande. Her beauty was light in a world that didn't understand my darkness. I loved her, more than life itself, but she didn't see me. She saw him, Malfurion. He, the devout. He, the wise. He, the balance. Their bond grew, silent and painful, before my eyes. But I never gave up hope. I believed that with power, I could make her see who I truly was. How foolish I was. Long before the war, before betrayal, before the skies bled green, there was peace, eternal glittering peace. We called it the blessing of Elune, a gift from the stars, a font of infinite power resting beneath our capital, Zinashari. We named it the Well of Eternity. It gave us magic, strength, immortality. It shaped our empire. It made us who we were. The deeper we drank, the more we changed, the more we hungered, and hunger, left unchecked, becomes a beacon. The well called to the stars, and the stars answered with fire. The fallen Titan, Lord of the Burning Legion, he saw in the well a door, a way to breach our world. The Queen welcomed them. Our leaders bowed, and the world I knew began to die. When the Burning Legion came to Azeroth, nothing was ever the same again. The skies turned a sickly green. The ground burned beneath the feet of demons. The Nathrazim, the Dreadlords, marched forward, with hell itself at their backs. The Highborn, blinded by vanity, tore a rift between worlds, seduced by the dark promises of power from the fallen Titan, Sargeras. And in the heart of that chaos, Azshara, our queen, became the high priestess of destruction. I saw it. I saw everything. And I understood. To stop the darkness, I had to understand it. I had to taste it, bend it, wield it, against itself. So in secret, I sought an alliance with the Legion. Not to serve Sargeras, but to deceive him. You call it betrayal. An unforgivable mistake. But tell me this, what would you do if your world was on the brink of annihilation? If those you loved were about to be turned to ash, would you stand by and watch? Or would you sacrifice yourself, your name, your soul, to attempt the impossible? I made my choice. When Sargeras rewarded me, he gave me fire. He burned out my eyes and replaced them with the eternal flame of demonic sight. From that day on, I saw the world as no one else could. I saw the truth beyond the veil. But with that vision, I lost everything. I thought I was in control, that I could walk the line, that I could look into the heart of darkness and remain untouched. But the Legion does not grant gifts. It carves its mark. They burned out my eyes, not in cruelty, but in reward. And in their place, they gave me sight beyond the veil. I saw through the shadows, through lies, through hope. I saw the Legion's network of worlds, endless, consuming, inevitable. I saw Azeroth as a candle in a hurricane. They could not understand what I had been given, only what I had lost. To them, I was no longer Illidan. I was something else, something to be feared. But I had seen the future, and once you've seen destiny, you can't close your eyes again. The skies stop burning. The last demon crumbles to ash. Silence falls across the ruins of Zinashari, broken only by distant weeping and the hiss of fading fires. They called it victory. The Legion was defeated, the portal sealed. Azeroth survived. They believed the darkness was over, that peace had returned. But I knew better. This was not the end. It was an intermission. The Legion defeated, for now. And with the end of the invasion, the Well of Eternity was gone. They believed we had saved Azeroth, but I saw what they refused to see. Without magic, the balance would collapse. Not today. Not tomorrow. But soon. And so, I made my most dangerous decision. A choice that would forever alter the fate of Azeroth. I witnessed the destruction of the well, and I understood magic would never disappear. But it could be guarded, guided, bound. So, in the dead of night, while the heroes mourned the fallen, I approached the lingering waters of the well of eternity, and with trembling hands, I filled a vial. Not for myself, but for what would come. I did not steal. I preserved. They looked upon that lake and saw serenity. I saw potential. I gave the world back its heart. A new well. A second chance. It was not greed. It was vision. It was the future. But Malfurion did not see that. He saw only arrogance. Tyrande said nothing, and sometimes silence weighs heavier than condemnation. I was accused. I was condemned. I was imprisoned. In a cell. Deep underground. Surrounded by silence. Darkness. And a rage that grew with each passing day. 1,000 years. 2,000. 10,000. Time means nothing when the world has forgotten you. But I did not forget. And I swore that one day they would hear my truth. They buried me, not just beneath the earth, but under the weight of indifference. 10,000 years. A number that rolls off the tongue like a whisper, yet weighs more than any life ever lived. An age in which the world changed its face, while I remained still. Immobile, forgotten, like a relic of an age no one wished to remember. Every day, I relived my choices. Every night, I heard the words never spoken, saw Tyrande's glances, felt the cold in Malfurion's eyes. Every moment, a warped reflection of what I once was. But I was not alone. Maya's shadow song. Her name echoed through the empty halls like a whisper of frost. She was my warden, my jailer. A sentinel devoted not just to justice, but to punishment. Each day she came to inspect my chains, not out of fear that I might escape, but to ensure I remembered. Every word she spoke was a sharpened blade, etched in a code of duty and blind loyalty. She did not hate me for what I had done. She hated me for what I represented: chaos, doubt, rebellion. But not once did she try to understand. Despite the stone and the seals, I could still feel the world. Magic pulsed beneath the surface, like veins of fire beneath the skin. I knew the Legion was not defeated. Its shadow stretched silently over new worlds. While Azeroth celebrated peace, I heard the screams of the innocent in forgotten realms. While druids nurtured new forests, I sensed the flames rising among the stars. No one listened. But I heard. And what I heard drove me mad. They spoke to me. Not people, presences, memories, The spirits of shattered worlds, the voices of the Legion. Some tried to seduce me, others to break me. But I endured, because deep down, I knew the truth. I was the keeper of a secret no one else dared to hold. Even the demons spoke, through dreams, through cracks in reality. They sought to tempt me, to make me yield. But I was no longer that thirsty young elf. I was iron, forged in the fire of exile, and every word I heard, I carved into myself. Every name, every plan, every vision. In the darkness, I became the most informed of the blind. 10,000 years is not a punishment. It is an erasure, a slow dilution of the self, until you vanish. But I did not vanish. I endured. Every day, I counted the beats of my heart as drums of war. Every breath was a challenge thrown at eternity. I remembered every word from my brother, every caress Tyrant withheld, every glance from Maiev. No one came to visit, no one asked about me. My name was banned from records, ignored by sages, forgotten even by the gods. But I remembered them all, and once more I swore I would return the truth to the world. But there is one truth that no prison can hold. The universe is not still. And so, after eons of silence, the currents began to shift. The winds carried new scents. The stars moved differently. The earth trembled just barely. I felt it before anyone else. The Legion was stirring again, stronger, cleverer, hungrier. And the world was blind. It was my enemies who proved how much the world needed me. The Legion returned to Azeroth. Portals began to open, and the Keepers realized their armies were not enough. That's when the unthinkable began to creep into the minds of the righteous. Perhaps it was time to release Illidan. But my true vengeance was not against the Legion. It was against silence, hypocrisy, against the betrayal of those who once called me brother, who once claimed to love me and judged me without understanding. I did not ask for forgiveness. I did not beg for mercy. I asked only for the chance to fight, to show what I had learned, to wield my damnation as a weapon. Elun's light no longer reached my cell, but the flame inside me burned brighter than ever. And the world, that world which had abandoned me, was about to discover that its last hope was the very monster it had buried. The shadows still knew me. They knew that one day I would return, and that day came. It was Tyrande, the priestess, the light of my youth, the queen of my broken dreams. She was the one who opened the gates of my exile, not for love, not for mercy, but out of necessity, because the darkness had returned, and only darkness could stand against it. When the gate swung open, and I saw the moon of Ilun once more, my heart did not rejoice. It was heavy, laden with memories and regret, but also with fire. And that fire burned for vengeance. I walked among my jailers with steady steps. None spoke to me, none welcomed me, and yet every stone of the temple trembled as I passed, because the stones remembered. They remembered the name. Illidan. The demon legions were returning, and among the whispers of prophets and the terror of the people, my name began to surface again. Whispered, feared, invoked, firmly, slowly. Illidan. The monster. The savior. The last resort. I had spent millennia meditating on vengeance. But now that I was free, I no longer sought blood. I sought justice and truth. The world had changed, but hearts remained the same. Fearful, slow, blind. The same eyes that had once condemned me now watched me in silence, with suspicion, with need. I asked for no apologies. I didn't want them. I walked among them, armed with purpose, and I spoke not of forgiveness. I spoke of war. Malfurion. My brother, so much like me, yet so very distant. He had followed the path of the druids, of leaves and the breath of the world. I had chosen a different path, the path of arcane fire, of raw energy, of battle against what lurks among the stars. When we met again, his eyes were filled with contempt, but beneath that veil there was fear. Because he knew that though I was different, I was also necessary. His words were cold, mine, sharp as blades. But a common enemy forced us to walk side by side, and so, together with Tyrande, we marched to war. The Legion had returned, hungrier than ever, more determined, to consume all of Azeroth. Portals tore open across the world. The sky split apart. Demons rained down, like plagues upon every continent. And in the midst of that chaos, I felt my calling, but I had already claimed purpose. Tichondrius, one of the Nathrazim, a general of Sargeras, a corrupter of worlds. To him, Azeroth was a garden, to poison. To me, he was a symbol of everything I was meant to destroy. I was not his equal. I was his reckoning. That was when I saw it. A remnant of another traitor, a warlock who sold out his people, whose bones still carried the echoes of forbidden knowledge. I found the skull of Gul'dan. It was no mere trophy of war. It was a relic steeped in corrupted power, a shard of the Legion's very soul. I held it in my hands and saw every horror, every secret, every possibility. I was tempted, but I was no longer an apprentice of magic. I was its master. I consumed it, and in that act, I became something new. No longer just Illidan, no longer merely an elf, but something beyond. A bridge between two worlds, a harbinger of destruction, in service of balance. a weapon shaped by the enemy, forged to destroy it. They did not see the demon fall. They only saw what I had become. Their eyes still searched for the brother, the friend, the lover, but those eyes no longer saw what I had become. I did not hate them, but I could no longer love them. I was the reflection of a world they had refused to see. And when they looked at me, they didn't see themselves. They saw what they had lost. I had been cast out again, banished by those I sought to protect, feared for the fire I dared to wield. But the universe does not abandon its weapons so easily. That was when he came to me, not in form, but in voice. Kil'jaeden, the deceiver, architect of genocide, right hand of Sargeras. Kil'jaeden spoke of balance, of the traitor Ner'zhul, once a servant of the Legion, now hidden behind the armor of a death god. He promised power, redemption, freedom. But I heard only one thing: relevance. To destroy the Lich King, I would need to channel forces darker still, forge alliances with those I once hunted, become more than an exile. I accepted. Not for Kil'jaeden, not even for vengeance, but because I knew if I did nothing, the world would once again burn. I had faced demons, dreadlords, kings, and yet nothing had prepared me for him, the Lich King. Ner'zhul, the broken shaman turned death god, entombed in armor and sealed within ice, his soul crying out across the snowfields of Northrend. Kil'jaeden had sent me to destroy him, to erase a failure of the Legion, to prove my worth. And so I climbed the glacier, each step a promise, each breath a blade. The winds screamed his name and mine. He waited for me, in silence, but I was not the only one who heard the call. Arthas came, the fallen prince, champion of the Scourge, wielding Frostmourne like a god of winter. We clashed, not as mortals, but as ideologies. In flesh, his blade sang. In cold defiance, my fire roared in righteous fury. And yet, I lost. He ascended the spire, merged with the Lich King, became something more terrible than either of us had imagined. I had failed. Not just Kil'jaeden, not just the world. I had failed my purpose. Wounded, humiliated, hunted. I fled, not out of fear, but because I understood the Legion would not forgive weakness. And so, for the first time, I turned not to the forests of my youth, nor to the stars of my dreams, but to the shattered world that would soon know my name, Outland. I journeyed to Outland, a world shattered by war and madness. And there, among the fragments of broken realms, I built my temple, a bastion of power, a weapon waiting to be unleashed. The Black Temple was not just a refuge, it was a warning, an altar to the necessity of sacrifice, a laboratory where I forged dark alliances and prepared my armies. Lost souls came to me, demonic blood, human rage, fractured magic. I welcomed them, because every shadow is a piece of light that has been broken. I conquered. I plotted. I killed. And every act was a message. I see what you refuse to see. To my eyes, there were no borders, only obstacles. Obstacles to be destroyed. Before the Legion could exploit them, my name became legend. To some, a blasphemy. To others, a prayer. I called forth those like me, the desperate, the damned, those who had stared into the abyss and endured it. I called them demon hunters. I did not train them for glory. I trained them for suffering. To live with the darkness within themselves in order to fight it in the world outside. Each of them gave up a piece of their soul. They gave up their sight to gain true vision. They were not heroes. They were my answer. And I was their lord. Every spell I cast bore the weight of millennia in chains. Every battle was an ancient roar, finally unleashed upon the present. We marched against the forces of the Legion with controlled fury. We did not follow the Council's orders. We did not beg the Druids for blessings. We acted. And battle after battle, my name was no longer whispered. It was shouted, with respect or with terror. It made no difference. To fight demons, I had to command them. My demon hunters and I became the thin line between annihilation and control. We sacrificed everything. Body, soul, purity. But we kept hope alive. One day, they would understand. But she returned, always her. Maev's shadow song, obsessed, unyielding. Where I was evolution, she was permanence. The arrow of judgment that never strays from its path. She hunted me, across portals, across worlds. Every time I fell, she was there. Every time I rose, she was ready to strike. But she never understood. She refused to understand. She was my broken mirror, the reflection of justice, without compassion. In the end, it was not my enemies alone who brought me down, but betrayal and misunderstanding. My allies turned their backs, my enemies, united to strike me down. And I was defeated, dragged from my own temple, chained once more, shadowed once more. But I smiled, because the true war had not yet begun. Outland was not merely my refuge. It was the reflection of my soul, shattered, yet still alive. The cracked skies, the floating islands, the scattered forces, everything spoke of survival. It was not the light that freed me. It was them, my broken blades. They thought me gone. sealed in silence. My soul scattered, a flicker lost in the dark. My disciples endured. They bore my fire when I could not. They freed me. I got out of that prison, stronger. Not by fate, nor by light, but by truth. And for that, I burn again. And I survived. I built my kingdom atop debris and demons, not for dominion, but for defense. Because I knew the only way to defeat the Legion was to fight it from within. The forces of the Legion never stopped hunting me. And I never stopped hunting them. I fought them. I studied them. And I waited for the moment to strike, straight into their heart. I knew Azeroth was still blind, still afraid. But I dreamed of the day my people would finally see. I dreamed of a world free from fear. To many, I had become a nightmare, but to myself, I was still a dream. My return was not met with songs of glory or trumpets of silver. No heroes welcomed me. No army celebrated my name. I returned, as I always had, as a shadow, as a necessity. Azeroth trembled beneath the shadow of the Legion. Portals tore through the sky like bleeding wounds. Demons swarmed like maddened insects. Nations fell, one by one. The protectors of old stood powerless before the eternity of hatred. In that chaos, my presence was felt, not as a savior, but as a specter of the past. Some shuddered at my name. Others whispered, Perhaps I had been right all along. Then came Zira, the prime Naaru, a being of pure light, arriving with her host to offer me a different fate. A path of redemption, she said, of glory, of servitude. She named me the Chosen One, the champion of the light. But I did not seek salvation, nor golden chains, to replace those made of stone. The light that imposes is as dark as the shadow that consumes. When Zira tried to bind me, I rebelled. I shattered her bonds, burned away her brilliance with the fire of my refusal. And in that act, I was condemned once more. But this time, I was condemned for being free. I returned to command, to my purpose. I gathered the Illidari, forged alliances with those who had nothing left to lose, and marched toward the Legion's black heart, Argus, a weeping world, corrupted and disfigured. A planet screaming into the cosmic void. But beneath its scars, a spark still pulsed. a hope. And I led it. Toward vengeance. The battles were apocalyptic. The skies split open. The titans stirred. Worlds trembled. I faced the Legion's generals, destroyed their portals, shattered ancient pacts. Every step brought me closer to what I was meant to do. Not to destroy, but to contain. And then, the Pantheon watched me. Silent, eternal, omnipotent. They offered me a task, a prison. Sargeras, the fallen titan, had been stopped, but he could not be allowed to roam, nor could he be destroyed. So I stepped forward. I, the eternal prisoner, would become his new cage. And with a glance, a gesture, I vanished from the eyes of Azeroth, but not with regret. No, only with truth. Tyrande, Malfurion, I saw them, one last time. Few words were spoken, but their eyes said everything. No forgiveness, no regret, only acceptance. That was the closing of an ancient circle. Years of pain, untied in a single, silent glance. I joined the Pantheon, not as an equal, but as one who understood the weight of eternity. Sargeras, the betrayer titan, could not be destroyed, only contained, and so I became the prison. I, who had lived as an outcast. I, who had been imprisoned for visions others would not understand. I was called to seal away the most dangerous being the cosmos had ever known. And I accepted, not for glory, not for vengeance, but because no one else could. The place I was taken to had no time, no night, no day, only the constant tension of balance. Each moment, there was both an eternity and the blink of an eye. Each thought, a weapon against the void threatening to unravel all reality. And I endured. Not for myself, but for them, for you. In that prison, every fragment of my life became clear. I saw my choices, my mistakes, my bitter victories. I saw Tyrande in the Ashen Woods. I saw Malfurion, bent by doubt. I saw Gul'dan, crushed by the weight of the power he craved. And I saw myself, forever poised between light and shadow, never truly one or the other. In every story, there are heroes and monsters, but I was the space between them. They accused me, feared me, used me, and still, I was the one who stopped what no one else dared face. Because sometimes, the greatest evil hides behind promises of light, and sometimes, the only hope is the one rejected by it. If you hear my voice now, perhaps you'll understand. Not all that glows is light, not all that burns is evil. I walked through fire, I danced with darkness, I embraced what others feared, because only then could I truly protect what I loved. I am Illidan Stormrage, brother, traitor, savior. And this is my truth.